built this city on rock and roll. Built this city. We built this city on rock and roll.
Hey there everybody, it's me, Christian. I am starting out my mapping project here in the city, Center City, Philadelphia. And I just had some lunch that I got from Reading Terminal Market. I sat in Dilworth Park and had something to eat there with one of their tables. The challenge was that as I was getting into the city, I got a Lyft driver, and the Lyft driver made me feel so car sick that I felt like I was about to throw up, which I did not, which is awesome. I was able to make it. I kept telling myself, breathe in, breathe out. You'll make it. You only have 10 more minutes left. And I had this mask on during the ride because I just don't want to get sick. Like many disabled people, we don't want to get sick. And so I did my Lyft ride. I got something to eat from Reading Terminal, sat at Dilworth Park. But now the reason why I'm making this video is because I'm trying to find a restroom. I don't know where I can find a restroom. So I am a little bit unsure of where to go, but I will keep you guys updated. Right now I'm heading towards the shops on Walnut and Chestnut, so I think that should be okay. So stay tuned. Hopefully I will find a public place that will accept a random person using their restroom, or I might have to buy something. We'll see. The reason why this has to do with public health is because if you are someone with a disability, and let's say your disability is more significant, and you don't know where to even relieve yourself at, or you don't even know like where you can use a restroom, that's a pretty significant challenge. And then on top of that, let's say someone has a communication disability and they have trouble knowing what to say or how to say it, like with a neurodevelopmental disability. Or let's say the person can't even communicate at all. Then what, right? So I have a mild disability, which makes it so that I can do more things, and I can camouflage and fit in with non-disabled people sometimes, but sometimes I can't. I can communicate and have my basic needs met, but some more difficult skills that are visual, spatial in nature are the ones that are challenging. So anyway, I just found a food court, so hopefully we will be okay. All right, stay tuned, everybody. All right, so the first thing I did when I got down here was I knew that I had to eat something, because the Lyft ride that I went on, these Lyft drivers are very aggressive drivers. They pump the gas and pump the brake really like in a jerky way, and they switch lanes and merge lanes in a really quick, fast-paced way. And I know that as a Lyft driver, they're trying to get as many clients as possible, and they're trying to move quickly throughout their day. But I also think that driving safely and in a way that is relaxing and not super jerky is really important, because today I actually felt like in this Lyft ride that I wanted to throw up because I was getting a little car sick. And this has never happened to me before. I've usually been pretty okay while driving. But I was noticing that on this car ride, I was really thirsty. And I think it was because I had cereal for breakfast this morning, which is not, like, it doesn't involve a lot of, fluids. Like, it's just your cereal and your milk. And whatever I had to drink, which wasn't much. And I didn't have my water, I did not have a water bottle with me, which now I know that I have to bring a water bottle everywhere I go because I don't want to feel dehydrated and carsick. So on the way here, I was like telling myself to, do deep breaths. I tried shutting my eyes, but that made the car sickness worse. I felt like I was on an amusement park ride. And so I was like, okay, breathe. And like, I could feel that my stomach was feeling really odd, and like I had the feeling of wanting to throw up, but I had to just, keep myself calm. And I was looking at the GPS of the Lyft driver, and it said like 9 minutes to go, and I'm like, okay, 9 more minutes, I can do it. So basically I feel like a hot mess, but I know that this was a great learning experience. Transportation is a big part of public health because you want to be able to go to where you have to go, whether it's here for a project for school or work, or maybe if I was here just for the fun of it, I might want to just shop at the mall, right? Non-disabled people get to go shopping at the mall just for the fun of it, and they can be there for however long they want to be, right? And so the point is that this is an element of disability and public health that I think needs more awareness. And I'm thinking about how, from a disability perspective, 2 things come up. Number one, as someone with a mild disability, I have been camouflaging with non-disabled people my whole life. That was part of the reason why I did not want to identify as a disabled person at first, because I thought that it would be less of a challenge to just identify, just try to blend in with everybody else, But then at age 17, I realized when my mom and my physical therapist said to me, Christian, if you start identifying as disabled, your whole world is going to open up. And so I then began to identify as disabled, and I joined my college's Disability Pride Club, and then I discovered disability advocacy, and that made all the difference. But back to the Lyft ride. So, as someone with a mild disability who can camouflage, I can just get in and out of cars, no problem. But I have friends of mine who are wheelchair users, and so I would not know how to assist them as they attempted to get in and out of a Lyft. Now I want to talk about the environment that I'm in. So I'm sitting in this mall, right? And it's very loud. It's very, I was thinking of saying, it's very peoply. But it's full of people. And there's some music on. And I'm also smelling a lot of fragrances, probably because I'm sitting right in front of Bath and Body Works. My mom has, she gets migraine headaches, and fragrances trigger them. she gets pretty severe 72-hour migraine headaches that are very debilitating. So being out in public with a lot of people and fragrances can be difficult for her. So as I'm smelling all these fragrances and as I'm seeing all these people, I'm thinking of her, and that even though I'm enjoying my time at the mall, it's a fun place for a young person to be, I also am thinking about how if she were here with me, we would have to leave. I'm also thinking about how when I walked into this mall, like, and even before that, in order to find this mall, I had to use my sense of direction in the city to know where I was, because I've been in the city many times. So I was able to use my visual spatial skills with navigation to kind of just walk around and see what was here. And because I had to find a restroom. So I was looking for any place in the city to use a restroom. And thankfully there's a mall where I could. So navigating a city requires visual spatial skills in which not all people have. I think a lot of people consider it a default setting for someone, for any person, to have good directional, what's the word? I guess it would be visual spatial, or just skills, or just directional sense. That's what I'm thinking of, right? Everybody thinks that it's a default setting for someone to have good directional sense, but not all people do. On the way here, I went to Reading Terminal Market, which, for those of you that know the Philadelphia area, it is a highly populated, very busy market where you can get food and water and produce, and you can get a sandwich if you want. Like, it's just a really nice place to eat. And it is so busy, especially today since it's a Saturday, that I was thinking to myself as I was walking through here, I can't really, well, maybe I'll get a video later, but I was thinking with so many people I may not be able to, but I was thinking about how for many people this whole market would be inaccessible because there's no room for a wheelchair user. Like, you literally, there's no space to push a wheelchair through because it's all able-bodied people walking in such close quarters with one another. So, and two, because there's so many people, and because there's so many sounds and sights to see, and so many signs and so many colors and fonts on those signs, and there's so much to do there and see, that market could be really triggering for someone with a sensory sensitivity that really could be dysregulated. And then I'm also thinking about how someone with a learning disability may not have the easiest time with reading all the signs, not just in the market, but also here at the mall, here on the busy street. Like, they may not even know where they're going, not because they lack visual, spatial, or navigation type skills, but because reading the signs for the different streets might be very difficult. And so I'm thinking about how all these things that we take for granted are really a challenge. After going to Reading Terminal Market, I then sat at the park and had my lunch that I got from the market. Yeah, I'm thinking about how someone with a sensory sensitivity may not want to sit on dirty chairs in a public park, and they may not want to breathe in the exhaust from all the cars on the road, because this was Dilworth Park in Center City, so you can see all the cars driving by right past City Hall, and so someone may not want to breathe in all the exhaust and hear all the cars, and so what feels like a nice relaxing environment for someone who's neurotypical, or for someone who's only neurodivergent to a certain degree, it might be a big either a big challenge or just like an unpleasant experience. So imagine if you have a physical disability and you can't walk long distances in the city. Or, like I said earlier, if you're a wheelchair user, right? Like, finding a restroom is going to be a big challenge. But thankfully, restrooms have accessible options due to the Americans with Disabilities Act, which is awesome. But, you know, so yeah, so that's basically a recap of everything on my trip so far for this mapping project. But this might just be like an addendum to the project, because I know this isn't required, but I thought I would do a vlog for fun. Because I love this stuff. This is what I live for. So I'm gonna actually get to work now. I'm gonna fill out the CDC tool and the 2 other PDFs from part 4, and I'm gonna walk around the city and see. Hey guys, so I'm here at Suburban Station, and look what I just saw. SEPTA Suburban Station accessible entrance across 16th Street. Now, I have noticed today as I'm walking around in the city that the city apparently has gotten a lot better, apparently in recent times, because with putting up better signage to show people where subway entrances are, among other things, because I'm noticing these new subway signs that I haven't seen before, which is awesome. But as far as signage for trains, they could do a lot better with that, because I'm looking at their train sign right now. I'll show you. See that SEPTA? I was just trying to zoom in there. See the SEPTA? Like, it has a little S. It says SEPTA, and it's like a green. There's 2 green circles there. And then below it, there's a sign that says, what does it say? 16th Street and JFK Boulevard regional rail lines. But that sign is very small, so people would not be able to see that unless they were familiar with the area and they were looking for that particular sign. But for someone who's just a regular tourist who's new, they would not be able to see that. Whereas the subway signs that they put up are visible. You can see and read them from a distance, which is great. I know that's not taking into account people who are low vision. That's the term I was thinking of earlier. But anyway, so I'm gonna go on a little walk here to see if I can find the accessible entrance for SEPTA, because I'm not so sure that it's going to be an easy find. So let's see if I can find it. I see another SEPTA sign, and there's a sign like, let me see if I can get it. So there's a SEPTA sign in the back with the S. There's also a green S. So I'm gonna see if I can, if that's the accessible entrance or not. And then as I'm walking, you can feel the vibe of the city. You can listen to all the sounds.
Yep. They're going the right way.
Okay. All right, here it is, or at least I think I have found it. Now here's the handicap button. You can, I'm sorry, not handicap. That's old-fashioned language. We're gonna say that here's the accessible button that you can press. We're gonna go in. Oh, look at that, elevator to Suburban Station and Concourse, yay! All right, and here it is, but I'm not gonna show it, but all right. All right, everybody, we are in the elevator, so I'm gonna press the button to go down to the concourse. Look at that, we're going down. This is cool. Now, for someone who has motion sickness, they would not be able to do what I just did with watching us go down. But here we go. And look at that. Here's the sign for the Accessible Travel Center, which is so awesome. I'm going to show you guys that. All right, now here's another visual spatial navigation moment. So the person has to choose between Broad Street Line and Trolley, City Hall, Market Frankfurt Line, and 15th Street. And the person also has to be able to read the signs. All right, and they have to determine in this long hallway, where do they go? Excuse me, I just burped. So we're gonna, oh, look at that. There's a great sign up notifying people that if they need resources, here you go, which these signs are so awesome. I wish that we could fund more postage of signs like this so that people know that there are resources out there to help them. That would greatly enhance the service delivery process, not just for the disability service system, but for everybody. I think what would be great is to have it so that the disability service system and its services are expanded, maybe as separate agencies, I don't know, but to include everybody, because the model that we have set up is really amazing, and I think it should be replicated universally. All right, so where do I go? 18th and Market or Regional Rail? Let's see. As I'm walking around, I'm looking at, whoa, look at this sign. This is a lot visually. Oh wow, look, they have a little historical tribute here to SEPTA's frontline heroes, or it looks like it's not historical, it could just be current. This is awesome. Look at all these awesome people. Because without them, we would not have public transit, am I right? So thank you to all these people supporting us, disabled and non-disabled alike, as we go to where we need to go. This is awesome. Okay, we have the gift shop. This is awesome. Looks like they're closed because I'm here late. All right. Oh, here's more of oh my gosh, the display, the mural, whatever it is. Here it is. Okay. Now, oh look, here's more of it. Look at this nice display they have up here. a brief map of Philadelphia. This is awesome. All right, and this is where people would go if they needed to go to 16th and JFK. This is where I usually exit, I think, to go up to the street. But now look at that. So you have to climb up the stairs, and they look pretty steep. So I'm glad that there's an elevator. But check this out. We have the accessible transit center or travel center, and this is so cool. This is a place where you can go if you have a disability, where you can learn how to ride public transit without the stress of, getting on board a train and people worrying about, like, oh my God, he's taking forever, all this. So, it's really cool. You can make an appointment here and they'll help you. So this is awesome. Now, if you look at these screens here, I want you guys to think about, for someone who has epilepsy or some kind of visual or other challenge, these brightly lit signs might be dysregulating or triggering for someone, especially when they move. See, it just changed. Yeah, look at that Verizon ad. It's really bright. Whoa. Look at how the letters just moved. Woof. That transition there where it just kind of swiped like this from one ad to the other. That's quite something. Now that's pretty tame compared to other things, but it can still be triggering. I know that when I was working on a project at my community college where the disability club is, I had a professor tell me that what I was working on, it needed to be a certain speed so that people with epilepsy would not be triggered. So I've always remembered that. All right, now let's take a look. Because I want to make sure that this station is accessible. And there's another sign for the travel center. Looking pretty good. It's kind of like a dead end around. Well, not really, but there's not much going on, so let's walk this way. Because this is where all the action happens. I don't know why I was, in such a quiet area there. This is where all the action happens. Here's another brightly lit advertisement, but at least it's not too bad. Ooh, let's go over here, the fare kiosk. All right, now, what do you guys think it could be a challenge for someone with a disability? Well, first you have to read the signs to figure out what they say. Then you have to use executive function skills to figure out how to even do this, right? And this is a lot different from just someone who's older struggling with technology. I was about to say boomer, but because this is a video for college, I thought I should keep it somewhat formal and professional. But anyway, this goes beyond a boomer having trouble with technology. This is you have to think about, okay, I need my wallet. I have to get a key card. What's a key card? Oh my gosh, I have to look it up on my phone. And then if I have trouble, what do I do? So I have to press and hold for audio, tap here for the card, then I gotta get audio there. I can't use a dollar bill, or any bills really. And what's this for? A bank card, you have to figure that out. It's for your credit card or whatever, but so it's a lot. And then let's say that you had to figure out how to get help if you needed help. How do you talk to a customer service agent? Let's try to find one. We can do this, guys. We're gonna find a customer service agent because, not that I need help right now, but I just wanted to show you all what would happen if I did need help. Because
Jefferson Station. Next to arrive on track to section D.
every train rider knows that whenever the announcer speaks, you stop speaking. So that's why I just paused my speech there, was speaking. So look at the sign, septic information, yay! Look at that, passenger services. I'm not gonna show it just in case the people in there are like, why is he filming me? That's weird. Don't want to be weird, people. Alright, so that's where you would go if you needed help. Although I thought that, yeah, this is what I was looking for. So over here, like what I just showed you earlier was for like if you had a significant issue that the customer service people could not help with. But let's say you just needed help with buying a ticket. See the sign? Set to fair sales. Now notice on the sign, is there any braille? No. Is there a QR code so that someone who needs the sign read in American Sign Language or some other format could get it read to them? No. Is there, let's see what else there could be. Braille, QR code, I guess. Does SEPTA have an app where they could provide more accessible communication? They're working on getting American Sign Language, but I don't know the progress of that. There's a local Center for Independent Living that where there was an advocate working on it, but I don't know how much he's gotten done. So currently the signs are inaccessible to only people who can, or I should say that they are only accessible to those that can read the sign and see the sign fairly well. And think of it this way: if not that this is a disability or anything, but if you're an English language learner, think about it. There's no alternative languages on the sign, so you have to know what the word fair means, and you have to know what sales means. Which, if I was someone that didn't know English, I might be like, okay, fair. Oh, does that mean that SEPTA's going to treat me well, fairly? No. All right, sales. Oh, that must mean that wait, I don't think SEPTA has boats as a form of public transportation, do they? So, if I was an English language learner, I might be struggling with this sign. All right, so here is the customer service area. So that's pretty cool. All right. Even that sign over there, retail opportunity. An English language learner might be like, oh, I should go over there and inquire about it, not knowing that it's for a real estate developer to buy and turn into a business. Or if someone with a disability might not know that either. It wouldn't surprise me if some people I know would have asked me, what does retail, like, they might not know that it's for a business person. They might think it's for them to inquire about. So, alright, look at this over here. Elevator to street. Yay! Awesomeness. And there's a mural over here, which is fun. You always got the Philly murals, which I love. Check out this sign over here. This is a no smoking facility. This is awesome. And it's the result of non-smoking advocates who advocated for legislation to, I guess, outlaw smoking in public facilities, which is great for people like me who might have asthma and are triggered by smoke. Although my asthma has been good lately, it's just when I was really young, it was a problem. Alright, now I want folks, let's see, I already covered the fare kiosk. Like, think about these turnstiles right here. I had a experience where I was having a problem with, I don't know. Oh yeah, that's right. I was here at this station and I had to use the restroom. And the restrooms, oh my god, it's like a whole theme with the restroom with this video. Now that's weird. But anyway, I was having to use the restroom that day. And the restrooms are on this side of the station, I think. Oh no, wait, it might be on the other side. Anyway. And the person said, like, well, because, you know, you'd have to pay again to get from where you're at into the turnstile and then back over again to use the restroom. Because what they had you do is they had you scan a septic key. Remember the septic key that you had to get from the kiosk, right? They had you scan that septic key to then have the turnstile turn. And I was like, I don't want... They knew that I wouldn't want to pay again, so they let me go through with their septic card, use the restroom, and then get back over. But one time, the guy saw that I was being inconvenienced by this, and he said, why don't you just jump over it? Just like jump over the turnstile, don't worry about it. Because he was telling me to do it, so that made it okay, right? Because he was a SEPTA employee. And I said, I have a disability, so I can't jump over. And, you know, by saying that out loud in the city, in a public setting, that makes me vulnerable, right? But, you know, he was an understanding guy, which is cool. But, I saw a guy jump over the turnstile once, and he was in a hurry to catch his train, and I thought, oh my gosh, you know, he didn't pay his fare, and now he's jumping on the train, but hopefully he paid once he got on the train. But so, speaking of trains, we have slippery rail season, so, you know, relying on public transit in not so great weather is kind of risky, and especially when SEPTA is not getting adequate funding to keep its services going. So what they had to do this year was dip into the repair fund to keep the public transit going, because lawmakers did not want to fund us adequately. There was no bipartisanship there, so, you know, yeah, so that's kind of a problem, right? As I'm looking around, I'm seeing there's the elevator for folks with disabilities. Yes. All right, and then here's the sign. I was thinking about folks with learning disabilities. They may not be able to read the L and the B and the T along with the other letters Market Frankfurt line, Broad Street line, and subway surface trolleys. And what I'm also thinking about is, would the arrow, like would the direction of the arrow be flipped, or would it be, so would you not be able to know that the arrow is pointing to the right and not the left? That's also a question I have. That's interesting to me. Another brightly lit advertisement. Here's a sign that says, no, we're not changing our name to Metro. So, keeping names the same so folks know what they are. All right, so here you go. Here's another way to get assistance for your SEPTA key. Now, what if someone's deaf? Would they be able to hear the person on the phone here? And I don't know whether they would be able to. And what if the person on the other end of the line is not from SEPTA, but some other call center working as a representative? Then what? Would the experience speaking to that person be helpful if there was a challenge with not knowing how SEPTA works or what language to use, terminology, things like that? I don't know. But look at the sign, guys. It has Braille. So there we go. There's a sign that has Braille. So the more formal signs that look like this have Braille that you can use. So that's pretty cool. And then, but I'm also thinking, for this one that says push for help, what if you can't push for help? Like, what if you don't have enough dexterity in your fingers to be able to do that? Then what? So I'm telling you guys, the world is not accessible. But look at this sign, Hub of Hope. I'm not sure where that Hub of Hope is, but that's pretty cool. Look at the sign. This is a smoking fact. That's right. I am speaking facts here today, guys. But really, if you zoom in closely, it's just that the letters of the sign are, they must have peeled off or something, I don't know. Which, by the way, if you don't maintain your signage, this, makes it difficult for folks, especially those with disabilities, to know what's going on, right? So there you go. But thankfully, there's a hub of hope in which we can all find solace and joy and love. All right, people, now let's look at the track signs. From this angle, they're not very brightly lit. So that's especially a problem for folks with low vision. But if you back up a little bit, the signs become brighter and brighter. Now, let's take a look. You have the time on the left, the train name. Now, I have never known what those numbers are. 1725, 4455, 3831, 1727. I have never known what that number is. Because on Google Maps and here at SEPTA, they always conflict, and then also on the train too. The trains have different numbers than what is shown, so I never know what they are, but maybe it's just due to inexperience. Which again, public transit, like, you have to know how things work, or else it's completely disorienting and confusing. I've never known what that LOC, loc, means, probably local. on time, 2 minutes late. And then 3A, it means track 3, section A of that track. So, and then it says keep an eye out for the announcements for the latest information. So that's cool. But again, you'd have to be able to see that sign. So what do you do if you're low vision or blind? What if you can't? What if you're using assistive technology to access the SEPTA app, but the assistive technology, because it's technology, it's getting in your way and it's not really intuitive. And the SEPTA app, even without that, is just really slow anyway, and you know, it's not the best app. So if someone were to put assistive tech along with it, integrated it with it, my guess is that it would not work well, although I've never tried it. And that's kind of that's me admitting that as a person with a disability of low support needs. I've never had to use assistive technology, so it is a very privileged position for me to have. Now, look at this escalator. It's not really a good angle, but here we go. So, if you look at this escalator, this one's going up, okay? Which is cool. But I want you guys to imagine, what if it was going down? What I do as someone with a physical disability is I always look for the elevators, so that this way I never have to go down an escalator, because my physical disability, cerebral palsy, impacts my balance. So I would never want to go down a fast-moving escalator because I might fall. Although maybe not. It could just be that I'm afraid of trying a downward escalator. I could do it, but I just don't want to risk getting injured. So it's kind of a challenge. And so I've had to take this stairway instead of the downward escalator. So here's the 17th Street exit. Here's the signs for the different trains that go in and out of this station. So again, you have to have directional sense. Now, I want folks to take a look at these sinks. Or, oh my God, listen to me. I said sinks. Come on. They're water fountains, okay? First of all, how would one even begin to drink water from this if they're unable to bend over and drink? What if they have a physical disability that makes that hard? Now, the answer might be, if someone has a wheelchair, they might be able to wheel in and drink. But even still, I wonder if these water fountains are even, there's a term for this that I just learned in one of my classes at William Patterson. I forget what it is, but there's a term where it describes that in order to make something fully accessible, it has to be at the height of a wheelchair. And I just kind of wonder, my guess is that a wheelchair would be too low for this water fountain. That's my guess. And that the person would have to kind of, inch up to the water fountain or sit up really straight to drink out of it. I wonder if this water fountain was designed in mind for a wheelchair user. Not sure why this one's covered with a trash bag. It must be out of service right now. That's pretty disgusting, to be honest with you. Now look at this phone. Now for those of us who are Gen Z and young, or young at heart, either one, I don't have a lot of experience with payphones. So, folks who are young at heart may have more experience. But I also want us to think about the implications here in regards to disability, because look at how you have to put coins in the phone to use it. Now, holding a coin, that's a fine motor skill in which you need both fine motor and dexterity to hold a coin. And then you have to fit it into the slot and make sure it gets in there. So, can you imagine someone with more significant cerebral palsy, particularly I'm thinking about like athetoid cerebral palsy, where that's not the cerebral palsy I have, but athetoid cerebral palsy impacts I believe it's the basal ganglia of the brain, and it makes it so that the person is really shaky. Not like, it's sort of like Parkinson's, but not really. They're really shaky, and so doing a fine motor movement would be challenging, and I could just picture someone really struggling to put the coin in here. Let's see. Also down here, push for coin. Right, that's interesting. Now look at this. It says free calls. Look at that. Get God's blessings in daily prayer. I never knew that you could get a religious phone call on one of these. Social Security, need a credit card, Wells Fargo, need help finding a job. That's cool. I didn't know you could even call a number where you could get help finding a job. That's cool. Yeah, we need more of this. EBT card services, Chase Bank, Bank of America. And it says 2 minutes for $1 worldwide. That is really cool. And 50 cents for local calls. Look at what's on the side here. The most, looks like it says, like, to get the most out of your 506, dial this number, time and temp, weather forecast, results, latest news, free business, residents, 411, help keep, anyway, that's cool. Look at whatever this person decided to draw or graffiti on this thing. That's pretty interesting too. All right. All right, let's look at this sign. Attention passengers, effective 4/20/23. Train 1701, scheduled to depart at 5:35 a.m. to Trenton. Will now board from track 5, not from track 7. Please note the change in boarding location. Okay. Making spontaneous decisions on the spot might be difficult for folks, including those without disabilities. Everybody has trouble with that, but even more so folks with disabilities who need everything scheduled in advance. It's what the medical model calls rigidity, but to be honest with you, might be a little rigid, but to be honest, I say that it's really just not throwing people for a loop. So, you know. All right. Here's a sign for the app. Now, what could be better about this sign? Let's think about it. There could be a QR code so that people could scan the app. There could be Braille so that people can actually read what it says. That QR code could also include sign language. It could include an audio description of what the sign says, so that folks with learning disabilities, or for those who are low vision, or for people that may have intellectual disabilities and may need something spoken in plain language, or for someone with autism as well, right? This is what we could do to make the sign a little better. Also, I'm thinking about how someone might interpret the sign literally by saying, the SEPTA Transit Watch app, like I'm watching the app. That might be a little confusing, but I know it's referring to like transit watch to know when the trains are coming. Maintaining a secure transit system takes everyone's participation. Okay. Someone might interpret that literally and say that they have to make sure that everyone is a security guard or something. I don't know. Anyway, this sign could be a lot better. Let's see. Ooh, here's another one, guys. This has a visual component to it where you have to interpret a picture. I'm still learning, so I don't know what that's called, but I wanted to draw attention to this because this is something where, for me, interpreting, I know for me, 3D images were a huge challenge growing up, especially in geometry, with drawing cubes and other things. But let's look at this. So, Suburban station access. The entrances are open for SEPTA regional rail customers to enter and exit the station. So, let's look at this first one, 15th and Market. So, what is the guy doing in this picture? I don't even know what he's doing. He's like leaning over to press a button, and there's a down arrow. So what does that mean? Is the down arrow simply pointing to the guy, or does it mean that there's like an elevator that goes down and up? I don't really know. It looks like this picture is of stairs, which makes sense because I'm right next to a stairway. But notice how the arrows in the first picture are not above the stairway, so it's a little confusing. I think it would be more clear to have the arrows above the stairs, so that this way, like, that would make sense, right? Because the stairs go up and down. Now for this one, 16th and Market, there's only a stairway, so that's interesting. So I'm starting to get the gist of it, that maybe what they're saying is that there's an elevator option for that man who's pushing the button, and then they have a have a wheelchair user in there, and there's arrows that say that the elevator can go up and down. But notice how that picture is not really clear. Like, I had to figure it out for the last 5 minutes, and I had to use context clues and make an inference to say that because this picture is next to the picture of the stairs, that therefore it must be of an elevator. So that's interesting, right? Now let's look at the signs that say open, 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 open. What could be confusing about these signs? Or not signs, I mean, like, what could be confusing about this part of the graphic? It could look like that the elevator part is only available from, let's say, 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. You can only use the elevator during that time. It's an example of either confusion or literal thinking, interpretation, right? Or, so I would say let's just make the sign universally designed so that this way it doesn't rely on neurotypical social norms that are implied or what they often call common sense, that isn't really common, because common sense is just it's a collection of personal preferences and societal norms in which people are expected to just follow. But really, if you look at the signs here, or these pictures, in math class it would be called a pictograph, right? Like, not graph, but if you look at these, they don't make much sense. Yeah, so. Oh wow, look at the bird! Oh wow! Oh, that was so cute. Also, notice how there's nobody off here on this train station making videos of things except me. Alright. Alright, let's look at the next sign. Exit to 16th and JFK. What's confusing about it? Well, that so it looks like there's an up arrow pointing to 16th and JFK. But notice how the sign, it doesn't literally tell you where the exit is. You kind of have to look around and see where it is. Also, again, there's no braille, and there's nothing there to help someone access the meaning of the sign other than being able to read it. So, interesting. Let's look at one of these train schedules. So as you can see, there's a list of all the different stations and the times. But this could be a little overwhelming for someone, because there's so many rows and so many columns, and they're all color-coded strangely. And then it says, like here, D4:55. What does that even mean to someone who's new to public transit? Right? What does that even mean? Looks like there's a key here. Train stops to discharge or pick up passengers that may depart ahead of schedule, so you might not even be able to rely on the time. Oh boy, that is crazy. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Let's see, I wanted to. Here we go. Enjoy Verizon Wi-Fi for free. Hi Verizon, how do I do that? Whoa, whoops, my phone almost just fell out of my hand. How do I do that? There's no information. Alright, let's look at this map. The concourse at Suburban Station. Okay, now this is quite a visual spatial skill, am I right? Because you have to conceptualize what the map looks like on paper, or in this case on a wall, and then you have to understand the map to a degree where you can take what you've learned and apply it to the real world, in which you're going to see buildings that are three-dimensionally placed in a setting where there's sidewalks and there's roads with cars driving and all kinds of things, and you kind of have to just know what to do, right? And so here, as we look at this map, let's see, it says Market Frankfurt L, 15th Street Station, Temple University, Center City, 16th and Market. What are all these numbers here? 116, 117, 118. Let's look over here. So here's the key. Now, because I've read maps before, and because most of you have read maps before, you know, just common sense, right? Based on lived experience, not something that you've just magically acquired, but common sense is due to lived experience. That you have to look at the key whenever you look at a map. And so, the key wasn't very helpful in helping us determine what are 116, 117, 118, all these different things, right? And look at the direction of the road here. It's like a triangle to represent two Penn Center. But gee, I don't even know what that road even is, because there's no text letting me know. Now this one says 15th and JFK for the subway station, but I can just imagine for someone who's neurodivergent, or trying to think, for someone with another disability, this map, which is meant to be helpful, might be a challenge. So how can we make a map so that it's universally designed? Well, I think the only way to do it is just to use Google Maps with Street View. But then again, maybe somebody could create a 3D version of this map. I don't know. Okay. Now let's look at this sign over here. It says, "Pardon our appearance during construction." Now that word pardon, that has multiple meanings, doesn't it? Pardon our appearance. So that requires some level of understanding what that saying pardon means, right? That's the sound of a septic key being activated and someone's dreams coming true with getting to use public transit to go wherever they want. Now look at this. There's some construction happening, so this text is upside down. I wonder if someone with a certain disability would be able to read that anyway, even though it's upside down. So, now look at this sign. Station closed. Look at that big bulge, capital letters, to let you know, don't go here. And look at, like, here's a gate too, right? Now, do you think that some people with conduct disorders would say that they don't care that this station is closed and they would go in anyway? I think that might be the case, which is unfortunate for them, but that might be the case, where they might not adhere to what they are supposed to do. So yeah. Elevator to track 0. Cool. This assignment is so much fun. I literally just get to walk around the train station all day. This is like awesomeness. Now, most people would not feel this way. They'd be like, come on, I want to get going. But I hope that people know that when they go on a trip with me, that we're going to do some side quests like this. There's that sign again. With the guy and the wheelchair. Oh, look at this. So here's an arrow with a stairway. It's pointing diagonal, but look, there's no stairway. So interesting, right? Wow, look at this mural. My art gives me a voice. Yes, it does. And you have a voice. You are all awesome people. And you are all going to make a difference by using your voice. It's from the Mural Arts Philadelphia project from a lovely artist, Lisa Kelly. Check this out. The Color Me Back program was designed in partnership with the Scattergood Foundation, SEPTA, and Mental Health Partnerships. Look at that. The power of public health and public-private partnerships to make a difference, right? The initiative is managed by Mural Arts Porch Light Department in collaboration with the City of Philadelphia's Department of Behavioral Health and Intellectual Disability Services. Yes! I love it. It says Color Me Back is an innovative program that combines participatory art making and access to social services in a unique model that offers individuals experiencing economic insecurity an opportunity to earn wages. It says participants can connect, contribute, and engage with peer specialists. Yay for peer specialists. I have friends who are peer specialists in the mental health field, and they do such amazing work. And these peer specialists, it says, can link them with support services including social and or behavioral health services and potential opportunities for longer term employment while working in the program. Look at that. The power of art and how when we work together, we can connect people to resources and enhance service delivery in their life that makes a difference and helps them feel better and more like themselves. Lead artist Lisa Kelly facilitated a 5-week series of printmaking workshops with CNB program participants, during which those participants first created sketches of shapes and objects of things found in the studio space, and then experimented with different printmaking techniques and materials. The participants' prints were then digitized and turned into the patterns seen in the mural. Yes! That is so brilliant. Look at that. This artist actually, if I didn't read this, I would have thought she made the whole thing, the whole mural, but it's actually based off of patterns from the participants apparently in the Behavioral Health and Intellectual Disability Services program, which is so awesome. And so the artist just put all those patterns together and brought their work to life. But I think what would have made this mural even more awesome is if the people with intellectual disabilities put the patterns together. But we don't know whether those individuals had very high support needs and whether they were unable to do it, so maybe they hired an artist for this reason. They gave her a framework to make this beautiful mural. And I want us all to think about the power of patterns. A lot of neurodivergent people are excellent at what's called pattern recognition. And pattern recognition comes in different forms. One form is with abstract ideas. Being able to put abstract ideas together and this is what graduate students are often taught how to do, which is when you're studying scholarly research, figure out what gaps exist in the literature and then synthesize different articles together and do a meta-analysis to then figure out new advances in whatever field they're in. And so this is something that some neurodivergent people, not always in a scholarly setting, but oftentimes can connect abstract ideas together. Or sometimes I hear neurodivergent people describe how they are able to connect social patterns. So things that people say and ways that people feel are able, but by listening to things that people say and how they feel, some neurodivergent people can pick up on, like, okay, based on what this person has said, they're probably going to make this decision, and this decision probably isn't going to end well. And, you know, this neurotypical individual is probably going to learn that, but the neurodivergent person knows ahead of time, which I just think is so cool, because oftentimes neurodivergent people are told that they can't understand social cues. But really, if you listen to the voices of neurodivergent self-advocates, they'll tell you that it's not that they can't always understand social cues. Like these are people with low support needs talking. But rather, it's that they may have difficulty with understanding inauthentic social cues. So when someone's being patronizing or manipulative or otherwise not good. But I love how this mural is based off of folks with disabilities expressing their artistic talent in ways that honor their self-determination, their dignity of risk, to engage in the subversive nature of art, and also just to be able to express themselves and not have it be in a patronizing fashion where it's like, oh, you poor thing, you're disabled. Oh, like, no, we're, as the title of the artwork suggests, my art gives me a voice. So there you have it, guys. Let's see. Look at this artwork from 7-Eleven with the love sign. That's great. City Hall. Now this artwork is not from that same project. It's just probably from the company, or I don't know where, but this is cool. So anyway, let's see. Also, guys, I forgot to talk about what are the public health implications of all this stuff that I'm showing you, whether it's this mural, or whether it's the signage, or whether it is the accessibility of escalators, and whether there's availability for elevators, and whether it's the flashy signs, or what is the point of all this, right? Like, what are the public health implications of all of this stuff? Whether someone can get access to a customer service agent, or whether I can even walk down those. Well, anyway, what are the public health implications of all this stuff? Like talking about the environment of a mall, or a station where the announcer is speaking, or seeing all the people, having street smarts, maybe not having that, needing support, transportation. The answer is that without awareness of these things, you could view this through a few different lenses. I'm going to start with a micro level lens. With people with disabilities not having supports, what do? Well, they can't get jobs because they have to commute to those jobs. They can't go to college because they have to commute to those colleges, unless they get online jobs or online schooling, which I know people that do that. But even then, we have to talk about the intersection of public health and classism, right? What if people can't afford college classes or transportation or other supports or home health aides or support people, and then they have to rely on the state to provide home and community-based services? And what if those home and community-based services here in Pennsylvania are not adequately funded? You guys up in New Jersey, you have more supportive elected officials that might help you, but like even at that point, you might be in a rock and a hard place. And so on a micro level, the point is, if you can't even exist in your own environment and provide for yourself well and take care of yourself, then your life is going to be really difficult. And that's not a good thing. That's a really unfortunate thing. On a meso level, right? I'm speaking as if I'm a social worker because I know this is the lens that they speak in. On the meso level, if you're talking about an organization or group of people, what if all those people are non-disabled and they have no understanding of any of this stuff? Then you're going to be really stuck because you're going to feel stress or anxiety with having to ask for accommodations or other supports. And honestly, for every job I've had, I've never asked for accommodations because I just don't want to. I just don't, it's just kind of a hard thing. I haven't quite gotten over the internalized ableism of that. Especially, anyway. And then, on the macro level, I forgot to say for Mezzo, what helps me is, spending time in majority disabled spaces. But then by spending time in majority disabled spaces, it kind of limits me, right? It kind of, I love my disabled friends so much, but I also think that it's really important and valuable to hang out with non-disabled people too. Because if you hang out with kind, non-disabled people, just by nature of hanging out with them, you'll be exposed to a lot more, and you'll be held to a higher standard as far as ability goes, which on one hand, that's kind of cool because they're presuming competence. But on the other hand, if you can't meet that higher standard, it's just kind of difficult, because then the point is that, you could spend time in all disabled spaces, but I think what we need to do is, instead of having everybody be segregated based on ability, which I realize that's not everybody's intention, but that kind of is what naturally happens in society, where disabled people create their own spaces to get support and affirmation and resources and love. But then it kind of separates us from non-disabled people a little bit, right? Which is not... Sometimes that's what we need, but other times we do need a more expansive type of community. And then on the macro level, if we think about the macro level, systemically speaking, we might need to update the Americans with Disabilities Act, because even just from being here at this station, we might need to specify more, what to put on signs, or what the brightness should be on signs, or, certain things. We should, make it a little bit easier for people to navigate the environment. Because according to the social model of disability, the three characteristics of the social model are attitudes, barriers, and environments. So, not only do we have to get people to be more inclusive, and not only do we have to get rid of the physical barriers like stairways, for example, or turnstiles to pave the way for more accessible type things, which, by the way, the turnstiles are meant to prevent fare evasion. But the problem is that many people don't, they're so easy to jump over that that you could evade the fare and have nobody notice. But I think we have to change that. But the issue is, recently there was a change at one of the subway stations where they got rid of the turnstiles and put in just, I don't know if it's glass, but it's like plastic doors, but people could still crawl under the doors. I mean, they would have a tough time doing it, but it's still possible. But at least that change was more accessible, so I'd like to see that happen. But nevertheless, the social model is all about attitudes, barriers, and environments. And the biggest one is the environment. Because nobody's attitude is going to help you get from point A to point B, no matter how loving or empathetic someone is. You need systemic supports to help you as part of a train station like this. And also, with barriers, you could have a completely barrier-free environment. And, we could try to make the environment, so accessible, but I don't know. I think that, I forgot what I was trying to say, but the main point is to say that this is so important for public health, to prioritize the social model, because we want to, even though it may not be possible to create a totally perfect barrier-free environment, at least if we as disabled people and disability advocates, if we try hard to get rid of each barrier as we see it, then we can create a more accessible and equitable world where everyone has the resources they need to thrive. And where we can practice early intervention, right? Because think about it, this is a pattern that you can recognize, in that early intervention is not just for your children in the school system. Early intervention is also something that advocates outside of the disability community use. Like, for example, part of public health is combating crime and pursuing public safety. The reason why all of this connects to public health is because while it is difficult to define what public health actually is, and there have been debates as to what it is, whether it's just about epidemiology and controlling disease, or whether it's a more broad definition of making things accessible and giving people resources. I think it's all necessary, because imagine, right, if you think about the philosopher John Rawls that we're learning about in the disability and justice class here, and he says to put on a veil of ignorance, where you could design a society of any kind, but you don't know what your socioeconomic status is. You don't know anything about what it's going to even be. And I think we could extend this veil of ignorance concept to disability and accessibility. What if you're disabled? How would you design society? The reason why it's all connected to public health is because if we were to take away these resources, nobody would be healthy. You might be physically healthy if we took away the train station, but you would certainly be your mental health would suffer because you wouldn't be able to meet your own goals. And when your mental health suffers, your physical health suffers. And imagine if we took away the resources of utilities, water, electricity, right? None of us would be healthy at that point. We would all die by lacking access to water. You know, that pretty much alone would be our death. So that's public health for you, everybody. I probably walked around Suburban Station a lot. Let me see if I can go on the other side. Hold on. Wow, everybody, take a look. I found a sign with a QR code. Yay! Now, I think maybe the reason why the sign has a QR code is because it was probably designed by a private entity or business. So it might be more innovative. Whoa, just had a cerebral palsy moment with my balance. Was walking so slow that I tripped over, like I swung my leg in a direction and I almost fell. I don't know if that was cerebral palsy or just me being clumsy, but I don't know if other people would do that. Anyway, so here's a sign with a QR code. Yay. Nice visible signage there. But again, what does that QR code lead to? It's just the business people's, it's their website, but nothing about accessibility. So, anywho, let's look at this sign. Tap swipe to exit at the turnstiles. Where? Suburban Station, Section B. I don't even know where Section B is. I just know where the turnstiles are. Designated turnstiles, starting Wednesday. Okay, well this is an outdated sign. It's from 2020. But look at the picture. Does the picture make sense? It is one of the clearer pictures that I've seen where it literally does just look like tap and ride. Or, well, not ride, honestly, but you can go through the turnstile. I'm not sure why it says ride, but I guess it's inferring that once you get through the turnstile, you can ride your train. So that's pretty cool. Let's see. Ooh. There's an escalator. Wow, look at this. Now look at the sign. It says Wawa. Some people might think that they're going to take the train and end up at Wawa to get a cup of coffee. I don't know about that. But look, here's an escalator going up. Okay, here's a cool sign. To NRG Station and Sports Complex. I don't know if that's going to lead someone directly to the sports complex. That might be not literally the case. Look at this. Track 5 has nothing on it. There's a sign that looks good. Awesome. Ooh, wait, does it have Braille? It has Braille. Yes. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Tracks 6 and 7, they got nothing. Dun 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 dun. Ba 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 ba. Now. Let's look at this sign, guys. I'm gonna turn my phone this way. For customer safety and service at this station, please observe the following. No person may interfere with the delivery of transit service, obstruct the flow of pedestrian traffic at this facility, or conveyances. Ooh, what's conveyances? That's not plain language, is it? Or interfere with the safe and efficient operation of this facility. No person may lie down, put their feet up, or place personal belongings on any bench or seat in a transit or railroad station, including any associated concourse, not sure what concourse is, or platform. What if somebody's autistic or otherwise neurodivergent and they don't know that they can't lie down, put their feet up, or place personal belongings in some places? They cannot occupy more than one seat with any of their personal belongings. They can't obstruct the free movement of any individual by lying or sitting or placing personal belongings on the platform floor. Oh my goodness. Ooh, look at this one. No person may use the public restrooms at a transit or railroad station to change clothes, wash or rinse clothes, or bathe, except to wash their hands or face. Now, think about, again, what if someone doesn't know that social norm? Or what if someone is unhoused? What are they going to do? What are they going to do? This is where class intersects with disability. And I could also probably say race and ethnicity. Because there are those kinds of reasons as to why our society does not support people well, because there is, racial prejudice and discrimination, which is not okay, and how that might impact a neurodivergent person is that they might be treated more punitively or harshly than someone who is of a different race, especially when they're doing something in public that they're not supposed to. It says, please remember to use the proper receptacles for trash disposal and recycling. Okay. For your safety, do not board a moving train. Okay, well what if someone's going to elope and then try to board the moving train? Do not access any train through the area between cars. Interesting stuff, guys. Interesting stuff. If you look around, you can find that there are disability insights that you can glean from literally anything. Now look at this sign. The Ballackinwood line is running on or close to schedule. Running on a schedule? I didn't know that a schedule was something tangible that one could touch. What if someone has literal thinking and they actually think it's a literal item? How could we reword that? How about just, even just saying like, the train is on time, on top of time? How about just, the train is here? What if it's not literally there? I don't know. We'll have to get creative and think about different sign names, right? All right, people. So I think I have basically scoured Suburban Station. Let's see. I want folks to take a look at this turnstile here, in which you have to pay to access the turnstile to turn it. Anyway, that was just a word salad. Probably a much better way to word that. You have to pay to make the turnstile turn so that you can exit. There we go. All right, so now, tap on, tap off. What if I just tapped my card? Maybe it would literally work. I'm not sure. Um, you know, interesting. Now I'm at the other entrance to the accessible transit center, and look at this. I love how they have the mural art as sunflowers. Some of my sunflowers are my favorite flower alongside black-eyed Susans, because both of those flowers, the sunflowers and black-eyed Susans, I think are both yellow, and I think that's awesome. But you know what's also cool is that sunflowers have significance to the disability community in that they represent disability. I'm not sure whether the folks here knew that, but I think it's just a happy coincidence, perhaps, if they did not know that. I'm looking at the signs here, and again, it begs the question of whether folks know how to read, interpret, and understand them. And also, please knock for entry. That's an implicit social norm that folks have to just know. Also, you have to know how SEPTA works with reduced fare, seniors ride free, SEPTA access, lots of executive functions, skills needed there, 8 to 4:45, managing time, all that stuff. So yeah. Hi, little birdie. How you doing, honey? You just doing your thing down here in the city? Yeah. Looking for food, probably? Or your flock? Alright, honey bunny. Oh my goodness, this isn't working, really? Look at this. It's a traffic sign that's not working. Oh my gosh. By the way, these city streets look very accessible. Look at the special ADA accessible oh, I learned about this in class. What is this called? With the dots. That's really cool. Did it show? I don't even know if it's showing. Is it showing? I don't know. Here it is. All right, So you got the ADA accessible curb cut. You got the nice pedestrian walkway here. Nice wide open, wide looking street. You got the bus lane and the bike lane for our lovely bicyclists. And I figured out the reason why this isn't working, because the traffic lights are set up so that you don't have to press the button. So that's even better, right? Universal design. So I'm gonna walk. Oh, holy crap. Oh my God, it's insane. Look at all these peeps driving. And there's a bicyclist down there. This is so awesome. And I'm gonna go. Wow, look at the bike lane. I mean, not the bike lane. The place to park your bike. So cool. Ooh, look at that nice cone with all this stuff on it that the people put on it, even though they're not supposed to. I think it's artistic, you know? And look at City Hall. The clock is lit up. Isn't that gorgeous? And you have the blue thing as well. It's awesome. All right, I'm here. I'm gonna go shop while I wait for my train. So I'll see ya. Look at that accessible entrance. Look at this awesome ramp at the Corswells Heights SEPTA station. Love it. And then we got the yellow track stoppers so that people can feel as they step on them that, oh no, we don't want to get onto the train track, right? And look at all this wide open space for somebody to be, and that's awesome.
We built this city. We built this city on rock and roll. Built this city. We built this city on rock and roll. Say you don't know me, I recognize my face.